What's going on, guys? Unknown Player here, and today we have an absolute ton of stuff to talk about, and I mean a lot. Seriously, so much to get through. It kind of brings me back to the days when there was almost too much to talk about, but we're going to try and fit it all into this one video for you guys and round up everything you need to know. So we finally have the very first reveal and some official details, some interesting ones on DLC number 2, the second expansion, and it's called the Warmind, that's its name. We also have confirmation of random roles returning in Destiny 2. Believe it or not, you heard that right. It's not a drill. We're actually getting some form of major upgrade and overhaul to the loot system. There's also an updated roadmap which shows us what content, patches, and even an event we're getting in the summer and also September with Season 4. There's some free DLC content, which is very interesting too, and a bunch more. So like I said, a ton to get through inside this video. And it's also just nice to be talking about some very positive and exciting information for once about Destiny 2. Obviously, we're going to have to wait and see how it turns out and what ends up in the final game and whether we like it or not, but it's all very good news, and at least Bungie are doing a lot of stuff that sounds, in theory, very, very promising. So as always, if you want to support the channel, a like rating down below would be much appreciated. And without further ado, let's jump into it. So I guess we'll begin with DLC number 2, the second expansion. I'm assuming most of you guys want to hear about that the most. So coming from Bungie on May 8th, the beginning of Season 3, we're also launching the second expansion to Destiny 2. It's called Warmind. It's going to send you to new places, meet new heroes, battle new enemies, you'll earn new loot, master new activities. Today we're naming it and dating it, and you'll learn more in a reveal stream on April 24th. That's going to show off properly. Mark your calendars and follow us on Twitch. Obviously, you're going to do more streams and kind of show off more content from it. So you can see the giant Warmind kind of Rasputin tech core in the middle, which is very similar to the Perfection Complex. If you remember the end of the Wrath of the Machine raid where you go to fight Axis, when you go down the massive stairs, there's that kind of giant cube, and this is the same thing. So it's obviously an important place for the Warmind or whatever it is. In the background, I don't know what that is. It may be a core of a Warmind. Maybe it's like Rasputin's brain or a different Warmind's brain. It does also look very similar to Siva, of course, with the red kind of nanites floating around. It's very Siva looking. And we know Siva is most likely involved in this DLC. We've seen teasers of it before. So maybe this is the core and the main kind of brain of Siva itself. In the background, though, there are some pretty interesting details which are kind of hard to spot at first. But on the left in the background, you can see kind of icy environments. You can see the snow and kind of like big icy mountains. But on the right, you can see the typical Mars kind of red sand location. So this definitely confirms it is on Mars. That's something I first pointed out and speculated on back in October, but now we know it's pretty much confirmed at this point. It's also pretty strange the DLC is simply called Warmind, which never had for Destiny ever. Every expansion's always been called The Dark Below, The House of Wolves, The Taken King, Rise of Iron. I mean, even the small events are called The Festival of the Lost, The Dawning, The Age of Triumph, and Destiny 2, we had Curse of Osiris. So they're all very complicated, long-winded names, but this is just simply Warmind, that's it. So short and sweet, I like it, it's cool. Now, in terms of things we know about this DLC, there isn't much at this current point, besides the fact it's going to be on an icy location of Mars with Warminds and also some member of the Bray family. The Bray family from Clovis Bray, you might remember, actually made Warminds and Exos and a bunch of stuff like that. So they're very involved with the Warmind lore. But the main question is the enemy. Who is going to be the main threat and who is the enemy of this DLC? Now, something Bungie did say is battle new enemies, which is an interesting thing to say. I think at the bare minimum, it means something that isn't in Destiny 2. This isn't going to be Cabal, Vex, Fallen, Hive, or Taken, because none of those are new enemies. We have them in the game right now, so they can't be them. Now, as we said, Siva is most likely involved in this DLC, so that's going to be a big part to play in it. Like, for example, Rasputin has an army of Siva frames, which if you think of the Postmaster or Benedict or the Sweeperbot, imagine those guys mixed with Siva. That is the army Rasputin has, so maybe it'll be those guys. I have also covered in the past how Siva was supposed to be in Destiny 2 at launch, but was actually cut from the game. It was the Exodus Crash Strike, which was supposed to be Siva-fied, but is actually changed back to normal Fallen for some reason. And there's also lore and concept art of Siva being on Nessus, and it was actually stowed away in Failsafe's kind of cargo. So those are the two possibilities, either Siva with the Devil Splicers, which I'm hoping isn't the case, or the best scenario would be an actual new kind of enemy race technically, which is Siva, and the frames and kind of nanites as a pure form. I'm sure vendors and characters that we've seen before will return as well. That's very likely. As a fun fact, Prince Aldrin, or the Queen's brother, or the Crow, he actually crash landed on Mars the last time we saw him, and that was after Taken King space battle when Oryx did that massive blast of the weapon. And we know after that he went and made an alliance with the Fallen, I believe the House of Kings, and he's kind of like allied with them. So maybe that's on Mars, maybe he's left Mars, maybe he's back here. So it is possible the Queen's brother might return, or maybe it's a September DLC. You can pretty much guarantee we won't see anything from Eris Morn or the Hive or Savathun, that kind of storyline. I'm sure Lord Saladin will probably have something to do with this as well, seeing he's pretty much an expert in the stuff, even though he did pretty much nothing in Rise of Iron, but he's still kind of an expert, I guess. But I mean, you guys know me, I'm a massive fan of the story and the lore of this game. I don't do that many videos on it, but I'm just excited to see more story and just kind of see cutscenes and just learn more about what this DLC is about. I'm really hoping it's a lot longer and less vague than Curse of Osiris was, but we'll have to wait and see on May 8th, I guess. So now let's get into the real meat and potatoes of all the patches, updates, features, and events happening in May, summer, and also September with Season 3 and 4. So Bungie updated the roadmap. Is pretty much the same thing for May. Obviously now we have a date for it, which is the 8th. And I compared this updated roadmap to the old one. The two changes for May are that faction faction rally improvements got pushed back until summer, unfortunately. And also all the exotic masterwork and exotic buffs, those massive sandbox changes, in May, those are just for weapons. So in summer, we're getting armor upgrades. Now, in terms of other things happening in summer, we're getting a new seasonal event, which means a kind of live event. So similar to the Dawning or Sparrow Racing, Festival of the Lost, those kind of things. It's pretty much impossible to guess what this might be. My only guess would be maybe Sparrow Racing, like maybe some kind of summer sports or Olympics or racing themed event. That could be it. We're also getting faction rally improvements, like I said, bounties, which is interesting. So I guess bounties are coming back from Destiny 1. I'm sure they'll be upgraded and some more to them, not just the same thing we had before, because obviously they need to be differentiated from challenges and milestones. So I'm looking forward to just having something to go and grab in the tower, something to pick up and something to turn in. There's also PC clan chat and then exotic armor sandbox changes. Now jumping into September, season 4, this is also confirmation the DLC is going to be launching in September. I mean, it's not a surprise at all. We all could expect it would come out in September, but seeing as DLCs always launch at the beginning of seasons, we can also pretty much guess this big expansion we know is coming for a fact is going to be also September. So what we're getting then is actually the very big stuff. I think this is going to be the major turning point for this game. So as well as season 4 stuff and the Taken Queen DLC, or whatever it's actually called, on top of that we're getting gear collections, which I'm assuming is some kind of kiosk. We're also getting records, which does seem to be something like a record system similar to record books, and also like a quest page. One of the big ones a lot of us have been asking for is weapon slot changes. So we don't know what they're going to do, if they're going to add a 4th slot or move some weapons into the energy slot or just completely revert it to Destiny 1. We have no idea, but weapon slot changes, they're doing some major overhauls to them. The last one on here is definitely the most significant, and that is weapon randomization. For some reason, I don't think it's going to be simply just random rolls copy and pasted from Destiny 1, because I think everyone knows the reason Bungie took it out, it wasn't a perfect system. So I think the reason it's going to take us literally 1 entire year to get this random system is because hopefully they've been working on a really cool system for this random loot. But the bottom line here, there is going to be randomization in our loot drops. So if I get 2 pulse rifles that are the same, there's going to be some kind of randomization that makes them different, which at its core is what random rolls is and what it represents. So whether it's perks or mods or traits or whatever it is, there's going to be something to make them different to each other. Now, Chris Barrett from Bungie did say a few words on this. He said, the community has been talking a lot about some of the changes we've been developing for season 4, meaning basically a lot of the big things we're suggesting right now is what Bungie is doing for season 4. He said, our goals for these features are to give you more control over how you configure your loadouts in Destiny 2 and give you more reasons to play the game over time. He then said, we also want to bring back those exciting moments when you acquire the perfect weapon, which is exactly what I want to hear. That was the entire reason I grinded Destiny, having a perfect thing to acquire, having something to chase, something to work for, something to be excited for, and then being excited when that thing drops. That was to me the entire point of Destiny. He said to make this happen, updates like weapon randomization, weapon slot changes, the gear collections and records will be delivered to all players. So again, obviously this stuff isn't going to be inside the Taken Queen. You're not going to have to pay for it. It's going to be just a free update. Now, one thing that was removed from the May update was actually the prestige versions of the raids. We saw they're going to be doing the kind of fixed weapon loadouts. And inside these prestige versions, you'd be forced to use a set of weapons with modifiers to make them more fun. It sounded interesting, but we haven't heard about it in a while. And Chris said, we now have a plan for raid prestige changes, including raid layers, and we will update where it will land in the next development roadmap. So I guess it's in the air right now. So I think that means they're not sure if it will land in the summer update or in the September one. And then he also said mod changes are being incorporated into our new plan for weapon randomization. So mods 2.0, that's been up in the air and pretty much off the roadmap for a long time. We don't know when it was going to be, but now we know it is going to be inside September. Now, on the topic of DLC, Bungie are doing something very, very interesting, which has never been done before for Destiny 2, and that is that every Crucible map that's going to be released inside DLCs are going to be free for everyone. No more locked behind a paywall or DLC paywall. Now, this is obvious benefits because it means everyone can play together. You don't have to worry about who has DLC and who doesn't. It's also, of course, very good for matchmaking because there's much more people in this one pool as opposed to separated. Like right now, there's probably like 1 or 2% of people inside the Curse of Osiris playlists. And it's not just for future DLCs. The Curse of Osiris maps are also being put in there into general matchmaking when the season launches, season 3. As Bungie said, is to keep the Crucible and community unified, and everyone's going to have new arenas in match-made playlists like Quick Play, Competitive, Trials, the 9 and 9 banner, as well as the weekly rotators that include Rumble and Mayhem. The only thing is that for private matches coming in May, you will need to have the DLC to go into that map on private matches. So I think a very, very smart move. I think in 2018, charging people for Crucible like PvP maps, it just doesn't seem to work. And it's kind of Bungie adapting to how gaming is in 2018. So it's a very smart move. And it's also good because it's free stuff. There's no downside or complaints to be made. It's simply just free maps now. So obviously next week is the Bungie Creator Summit, where I and a bunch of other content creators and community members are going to Bungie to give feedback on future elements of the game. I mean, like I said before, DLC 2 is done, it's finished, there's nothing that can be done to that. So while I will be getting early gameplay for that DLC for you guys, the main focus is to give feedback and playtest future stuff. So most likely weapon slot changes and weapon randomization, probably playtesting that. Maybe they'll let us play the September DLC as as well, but I kind of doubt it. But it does make complete sense that the feedback and the main kind of goal of this is going to be testing that September weapon slot changes and weapon loot randomization. Now, like I said, the reveal stream for DLC 2 is on April 24th, but Deej also said that is when we're getting the trailer for the expansion as well, so they're not going to put out before. And honestly, I really like that because it seems like they're keeping a lot more kind of hush about the DLC and not just blasting it with a dozen trailers and announcements all the time. I mean, with Curse of Osiris, there was a 6-week kind of build up and just like a bunch of hype, a bunch of info. We got images, info about exotics, and kind of too much information. As much as new info is nice, and I obviously cover everything here on the channel, I think the less they show off, the better. But yeah, there you go. That is what's happening for Destiny 2 in terms of next week, in terms of May, and also summer and September. And like I said, a lot of exciting and pretty just positive news to see, which is nice. So of course, if you did enjoy the video and if you want to support the channel, then a like rating down below would be much appreciated. Comment down below your thoughts of everything you've seen today, the DLC, the updates. What do you think about everything I've talked about? Like I said yesterday, this game is going to be speeding up very, very soon. So there's going to be a lot of stuff coming out, a lot of news, a lot of gameplay, and of course, new content coming soon. So if you're new around here, then make sure you are subscribed with notifications turned on. We've got a lot of stuff coming very soon, so don't miss out on my videos. But in the meantime, if you want to watch another video from me, you can click the image on screen right now, and I'll see you guys in the next one.